considered classified. Now, Russia and China, I guarantee you have the pictures of this submarine for a long time. The submarine was like 30 years old. They had them in the first year. They didn't have to wait for the 30th year. But this is a famous story. And they had his pictures, and they put him in jail. He sent them to his mother and to his friend. His friend was not interested in what you're thinking. And there were many other cases where documents were leaked, even accidentally. It's so, classified documents are so important that even if they're leaked accidentally, now Hillary Clinton leaked more classified documents than any human being, I believe, in the history of the United States of America, right? And she deleted 33,000 emails. And she said, oh, and by the way, if you did it, 5 years, maybe more, okay? But you'd never have access to classified. Very few people have access. She deleted 33,000 emails. I kept waiting. Because, you know, they can talk Benghazi, they can talk 100 different things. What people understand is when you get rid of this kind of evidence, so the United States Congress said, they subpoenaed her. They wanted to see her emails. After getting the subpoena, she deleted 33,000 emails. And they said, you remember this? Yes, the emails were about her yoga classes, her exercising, and her daughter's wedding. 33,000 about her daughter's wedding. That must have been the greatest wedding of all time. And nothing happened to her. And yet they'll put a young sailor in an old submarine with a picture, a couple of pictures. They'll put him into jail. And I pardoned him because it was unfair that she was able to do it at the highest level. And his level wasn't, what he did was, it was confidential. Confidential is a much lower class than classified. So I tell you this because it's interesting. This is part of our nation. This is what's going on now. So I'm going to let this process play out. And we want to have a great and fair court system. And I hope you had a fair and, fair and wonderful court system. But perhaps you didn't. Perhaps you didn't. And if you didn't, we want to straighten it out. But we have to straighten it out also at the top level. So we had a lot of dirty cops. FBI is phenomenal. I love the people in the FBI. But the people at the top were dirty cops. And if you would have read the report written about Comey, 78 pages of kill with a reference of, go get him. They really said it, go get him. And then you read about McCabe, and you see what they said, so bad. And we're just waiting. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here, standing here, talking to you. We're waiting. So I just want to let the fake news media know that I just want to let them know, because there's few people more dishonest than these people, I will tell you that. And you have some very good ones. A hell of a lot more dishonest than most of you in the audience were. But I'm going to let the media know that I'm going to watch the process. I'm going to watch it very closely, and at some point I'll make a determination. But Roger Stone and everybody has to be treated fairly. And this has not been a fair process, okay? Thank you. So when I ran for president, I pledged to fight for those who have been forgotten, neglected, overlooked, and ignored by politicians in our nation's capital, and you understand that very well. For decades, no one was more forgotten than citizens coming out of prison who were ready to go into a brand new, beautiful start, but couldn't find a job. They couldn't find people who believed in them. And one of the great things that happened is I and my administration and a lot of very talented people that work with me, we created the strongest economy in the history of our country. We have the best unemployment numbers. We have the best unemployment numbers for African American, best in history. Asian American, best in history. Hispanic American, best in history. Our country is booming. We've never done better. It's the best economy we've ever had. So when people come out, as an example yourselves, you're going to get great jobs. I'll tell you the end result, and we do studies on this. People with businesses are going to hire you. They want you more than you want them. This is the first time this has happened. Okay?
Even after all you have seen, ISIS prisoners freed, all the humanitarian disaster, you don't have any regret for giving Erdogan the green light to invade?
I didn't give him a green light.
Well, did you tell him?
That's
did he defy
the same thing
you?
as you just, when you make a statement like that, it's so deceptive. Just the opposite of a green light. First of all, we had virtually no soldiers there. They were mostly gone. Just a tiny little group. And they would have been in harm's way. You have a massive army on the other side of the border. But more importantly, I didn't give him a green light. And if anybody saw the letter, which can be released very easily if you'd like, I could certainly release it. But I wrote a letter right after that conversation, a very powerful letter. There was never given a green light. They've been wanting to do that for years, and frankly, they've been fighting for many, many years. And when you ask a question like that, it's very deceptive, John. It's almost as deceptive as you showing all of the bombings taking place in Syria, and it turned out that the bombing that you showed on television took place in Kentucky. So, and I'm not even sure that ABC apologized for that, but certainly it was a terrible thing. I'm looking at this, I say, wow, that's pretty bad. And it was in Kentucky, it wasn't in Syria. So I don't know what you're going to do about that, but I think ABC owes an apology.
You see, Lindsey Graham just said of your remarks that you made in the Oval Office that if you keep talking like that, quote, this will be a disaster worse than Obama's decision to leave Iraq.
No, Lindsey Graham would like to stay in the Middle East for the next 1,000 years with thousands of soldiers and fighting other people's wars. I want to get out of the Middle East. I think Lindsey should focus right now on judiciary, like the Democrats, the do-nothing Democrats, as I call them, because they're doing nothing. They're getting nothing done. They're not getting USMCA done between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. They're getting nothing done. And I think Lindsey should focus on judiciary. He ought to find out about what happened with Comey, what happened with McCabe, Lisa, what happened with Peter Strzok, what happened with President Obama, what happened with Brennan. That's what Lindsey ought to focus on. That's what the people of South Carolina want him to focus on. The people of South Carolina don't want us to get into a war with Turkey, a NATO member, or with Syria. Let them fight their own wars. They've been fighting for 1,000 years. Let them fight their own wars. The people of South Carolina want to see those troops come home. And I want an election based on that. And that's the way it is, whether it's good or bad. That's the way it is. And if you look at this country, I'd be willing to bet anything, political instinct, that that's what the country wants. I'm not going to get involved in a war between Turkey and Syria, especially when, if you look at the Kurds, and again, I say this with great respect, they're no angels. If you look at PKK, take a look at PKK. ISIS respects PKK. You know why? Because they're as tough or tougher than ISIS. You take a look at a lot of the things having to do, you have to say it. Nobody wants to say it. We're making the Kurds look like they're angels. We paid a lot of money to the Kurds, tremendous amounts of money. We've given them massive fortunes. And you know what? It's wonderful. They fought with us, but we paid a lot for them to fight with us. But just so you understand, we were the ones that captured ISIS. People let some go. They opened a couple of doors to make us look as bad as possible. We have a situation where Turkey is taking land from Syria. Syria is not happy about it. Let them work it out. We shouldn't be over there. And you should get your accounts correct. And you shouldn't be showing up buildings blowing up in Kentucky and say it's Syria, because that really is.
I'd also like to ask you about some comments you made on Friday. You were talking about governors of different states, and you said, I want them to be appreciative. You also said, if they don't treat you right, I don't call. These are direct quotes, sir.
Excuse me. Ready? Take a look at what I said. I want them to be appreciative of me, okay? And then you cut it off because it's fake news.
You and of your administration,
Listen,
absolutely.
Please, let me just finish it. You just said it again, and you know the answer is a lie. You know that
I could read you your full comments, sir,
let me
if
just
that
say,
would be easier.
Your statement and your response and your answer is a lie, because here's the story. You ready? I said, I want you to be appreciative of me, and then you go on, and then I go on, and you cut it off. But it says
You said,
because
I
when
want
you're
them to be
not,
appreciative. I don't want them to say things that aren't true. I want them to be appreciative. We've done a great job. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Mike Pence, the task force. I'm talking about FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you.
But then you went on to say, if they don't treat you right, I don't call. He's a different type of person.
I don't
you
call.
Said, referring to
no,
the
I
vice
don't
president.
call. No, I don't call the governor of Washington.
Why in
now,
this time?
But Mike Pence calls. And the head of FEMA calls. I don't stop them. Did I ever ask you to do anything negative, Mike, to Washington, the state of Washington? Michigan, I love that state. That's one of my favorite places in the whole world, Michigan. And I'm so proud of what's happened with the auto industry. It's coming back to Michigan. No, I don't have to call because I'm probably better off not, because we don't get, he's a failed presidential candidate. He's a nasty person. I don't like the governor of Washington. So you know who calls? I get Mike Pence to call. I get the head of FEMA to call. I get the admiral to call. But what you didn't say, see, you started it off and you talked about, I have to be appreciated. But then when you read the rest, it said, because if you don't appreciate, you're not respecting these incredible people, the two admirals, you're not appreciating FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers who built 2,900 beds in 3.5 days, and you're not appreciating all of the work that's been done, and you're not appreciating these incredible people from private enterprise that are delivering things in numbers that nobody's ever seen. See, and that's why people aren't watching CNN very much anymore. That's why they don't like it. That's why your ratings are no good. Because you, even after knowing the truth for days now, you bring up the old lie. Read the rest of your question, the rest of your statement, you didn't put in. You have to put that in. And it said in there, FEMA, and it said in there, Army Corps of Engineers, because when they disrespect me, they're disrespecting our government. And you know what? I don't mind if I'm disrespected, but they can't disrespect the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA. Okay.
Why is the lack of appreciation?
Please go ahead.
Something that's important in the midst.
I want them to appreciate the incredible job we're doing. We are doing a job the likes of which has never been done before. And there are a couple of people that know that. But for political reasons, let's say they're Democrats. They don't want to give this administration credit, and that's okay. But I don't have to deal with them. But our vice president does deal with them. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
But that's
President.
why CNN is not trusted anymore. They are not trusted. They are fake news. Remember that. Go ahead.